Neal, who's the director for our development platform. Tim will be speaking a little bit about the architecture of BlackBerry 10 and also doing a little bit of an overview of the tools and what you can expect with the different platform options. Coming up with Tim, he'll bring up Gary Klassen, one of the principal architects for the development platform. So as I said, you're going to be able to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Tim, please join the stage and introduce yourself and come on and give a little session about the UX overview. Thanks, Tim.
Oh, am I on? Oh, hey, there we go. Good morning or almost afternoon, everybody. Like Brian said, my name's Tim Neal, and my group is essentially responsible for what we provide out to you guys. So whether that be tools, APIs, the way that we structure our website. So Brian and the dev relation groups and our product management group, we work really closely together to try to listen, bring back feedback, bring the things that you guys are looking for, and being able to bring that back out into our web presence. So we've been working very hard on bringing in a whole bunch of new APIs, new capabilities, and it's been great to see the type of turnout that we're getting across these different events. And the interest that we're seeing in building applications for the platform. So what I'm going to go through today is information around kind of the architecture. What are some of your options? Get a little bit more information about the options that you have for building applications, what that looks like, what some of our tooling is, and maybe a few different demonstrations to show some of the stuff that's there. So on BlackBerry 10, we really wanted to, again, we're bringing home some of these different concepts that you've been hearing about this morning. And the one is flow. And this is something that we find really near and dear to our heart. It's something that we've always based the BlackBerry operating system on. And it's that experience where you just kind of move between application to application. So when you're using a BlackBerry device today and you're creating a new email and you search for the contact, you bring that in, you add on a picture, or you're in your contact and you can see all the different postings that have happened with that contact. We've brought some more of this stuff over into the playbook and the native email and contact clients that are there. Is that this experience of flowing between applications and having data available for you is something that we want to make sure that there's APIs and capabilities for all of you to be able to plug into that same experience. It's something that we've found with many of our, especially our socially connected applications, is the time that people spend in an application is really, really related to the amounts of ways that you can enter that application. So if you are a little island of an icon in a sea of apps on a device, you get used sometimes. If you're integrated as part of the experience of the device so that when I've taken a picture and I click on share and your application shows up, you now have multiple different ways to interact with that user and have them be part of your application. So that flowing experience, we want to ensure that we've got things like our invocation framework, our share frameworks, so you can be part of that experience on the device. The other part is really the connecting aspect, and we talk about different things of socially connected. There's different examples this morning around what we've seen. Those that are using BlackBerry devices is that hyperconnectivity. They want to be able to make sure that as I take a picture, I can share on Twitter or on Facebook or upload it to PhotoBucket or do something that's on it for doing different filters or different editing and these things and sharing that with my friends. Same thing with BBM, and it's a huge social network of connected applications, and really taking advantage of that connectivity and the desire for your users to expose that, and exposing that in a way that's really easy for you to connect into your apps, and again give more entry points into your application and usage. And from an extension standpoint, is again just reaching beyond the device itself. Being able to have easy ways of doing things with Bluetooth, NFC, taking care of a lot of the hard bits that are underneath there to expose a higher level framework for you as developers to take advantage of, to extend beyond that. We've had some really cool demonstrations. I was over at Mobile World Congress, I guess it was last year now, or maybe it was earlier this year, time's blurring, where we had a demonstration there that was, I believe it was called Confetti. And if you do a search on YouTube for confetti, you'll see that we've got 5 different playbooks sitting on a tabletop. Ooh, here we go. And essentially, they're coordinating with each other. When you move the screens together, you see the content moving from screen to screen. When I flick an application or flip content from one, it shows up on the other one. And integrating things like a little camera that was over top of the table as a meeting room way of sharing. So really looking at doing things that extend beyond the physical device itself. We had other demonstrations at GDC showing things like using your BlackBerry device as a gamepad connected to your playbook that was using and running as a console. So lots of really interesting ways to be able to connect beyond just the application running on the device itself. And to do this, Alec had mentioned, we've got a lot of really great technologies, leading technologies that we have out there around our different SDKs. So we've got our HTML5 and our native platforms as what you consider kind of our core runtimes on the device. And then we also have runtimes for communities of developers that are building applications in Adobe Air or Android applications to be able to bring those existing applications to our platform as well. This isn't around what is the right choice. The right choice is what makes sense for you as a developer and as business for building your applications. You all have many different reasons on why you're building your application. Is it a specific application that's core and integrated to the device and providing a device-specific experience? Is it a branded application that you're going cross-platform to multiple different handsets that are out there? And what is the technology that best suits your business needs? From a BlackBerry perspective, we welcome all those different technologies to the platform. We provide application frameworks out of the box, such as Cascades application framework for native developers, WebWorks as an application framework for web developers, but also supporting things, the PhoneGap and Apache Cordova projects for web developers that are there. So it's around choice to empower you to use your existing skills and assets and code bases to be able to bring what you have to the platform without having to learn something new, specific, and proprietary to bring your code there. Other cool, interesting things that we're seeing is from an open source perspective, we've got different people bringing things. I believe there's a port of the Mono project that's on the way, so any of the C# or VB.NET developers, there's open source projects for being able to bring that to the platform. We have different people that are bringing Python. I believe it's called QtPy because it's essentially being able to bring the Qt QML UI engine, but Python is the back-end engine for coding. So it's leveraging Cascades as the UI and then Python for the coding language. It's part of that power of having that open platform. There's a lot of really interesting, cool things that people are developing. Why? Because you can, right? And it's the fun part of developing and inventing. So the way that we make this all work is that we've tried to make sure that we've got the platform partitioned and layered in the best possible way. And I just did a talk with a bunch of government security agencies that were there. So NSA and all these folks talking about BlackBerry 10. And the interesting thing on the way that BlackBerry 10 is architected is that an application has an application context. It doesn't matter what technology it was written in. Security and everything runs down through the stack. We've layered everything in a way that each runtime can abstract on top of the operating system wherever it makes sense for that runtime. And I have a fly after me. So we've got core level, system level services that can be abstracted on upon C. Those C bindings sometimes get abstracted upon back to be able to expose this JavaScript in our WebWorks framework, Qt and C++ from a native perspective. Android sits down on top of here as well, right? So we want to make sure that we've got the right architecture and structure going forward for things other than just smartphones as well, as we've been talking tablets, cars, other different ways that this core operating system can be used. Along with this, we've really been listening on the tooling aspect of things. This is stuff, how many in the room here are previous BlackBerry Java developers? Show of hands. Yeah, we've heard your cries. UI, building UI, tooling. How do I create something rapid and quick for the environment? Even just get an on-click, I need this subclass, a button and do these things. Like it's hard, right? It's hard from these things where we're looking for something modern, easy to use, and we've been wanting to put a lot of effort into our tooling. So from a Cascades perspective, we've got full quick view previews of your UI. Your UI is a declarative model, which is quick and easy to be able to edit and go through. If you want, you can do all of your coding in Cascades in JavaScript, or you can choose to go to C++. There's a lot of different options and ways for you to build that tooling to be able to drag and drop into your code editors. So we've been putting a lot of effort and brought in a lot of people that have vast experience building tooling to bring that in for BlackBerry 10. We've also listened to our web developers out there, and we always have fantastic conversations when you have a room half full of web developers and half full of native developers on what's the right way to do something. And what's the best tool that you're going to use for building that? And it turns into somewhat of a bloodbath. But we've talked to our web developers, and IDE, what do you mean IDE? I don't need no stinking IDE. VI and TextMate and Notepad+ is my best friend, right? And I use Chrome and Web Inspector, and rebuild, recompile is called F5. Right? It's not recompile, launch, and build and run in simulator. No. Right? So we've been wanting to make sure that we address each of our different communities in a way that satisfies their needs. Not a blanket, one size fits all, but really meeting developers on their turf. And this is where we've brought in things like our Ripple emulator. We've been doing a lot of cooperation and co-development with the Cordova and PhoneGap group on what makes sense for web developers. We've made sure that our WebWorks SDK and all of our Ripple tooling is entirely open source and available on GitHub as well. Trying to make sure that we're satisfying the needs of those developers. And then from a gaming perspective, right now we have our Visual Studio plugin in a closed beta. We're looking to try to get it in an open beta as soon. We're just working through the debugging quirks of making Visual Studio debugging hook into our debuggers. But Visual Studio plugin is directly made for game developers, right? We're not looking to bring Cascades functionality and these things into Visual Studio. Our game developers and everybody that we've gone to said, well, we use Visual Studio all the time. We build for PlayStation, Xbox, iPhone, Android, and there are different build targets out of Visual Studio. It's where we live and breathe. So we're making sure that we plug into that environment as well so that you can build and compile and debug right inside of there. And specifically for that group that's looking to do it in the way that they desire. One of the other big pieces of feedback that we received from all of our developers was around our web presence. And we had lots of great conversations with our existing BlackBerry Java developers, and the overwhelming response is it's hard. It's hard to build for the BlackBerry OS Java phones. It's really hard. And so we wanted to go further with that conversation and said, okay, well let's dig into this a little bit. Is it the APIs? Are the APIs just that much easier to use? And everything that we kept being held up on a Java perspective was Android development. Are they that much better on Android, or are they worse? Right? And the answers that we got back was, well, it's some here, some there. Your UI is one of the harder things to work with, but from an API perspective, we can do so much more from an integration perspective than what we can in Android. So I mean, it's a bit of a wash. And we're like, okay, well, is tooling just that much better on Android? And the answers we got back after a short chuckle was no. Android tooling is fairly minimal. You're still kind of left to your own accord to figure out how to get things done. And so we asked the question again, well, if it's not the APIs and it's not the tooling that is the major blocker of why it's hard to build for BlackBerry, what is that? And the answer we got back from every single one of those developers was, if I need to find something and know how to figure out how to build something, I can find it in 2 clicks for Android. They know me. They know what I'm looking for. They know how to put their information architecture up. I can find what I'm looking for instantly. When I come to BlackBerry, I have to go to 4 corners of the earth to try to put together how to listen for GPS, right? So we've been putting a ton of effort into our web presence. We've been having the TAT guys and the design wizards come in around usability and being able to provide specific sites for each of the different technologies to gear the content and the technology for the users that are on that site. Native developer goes and looks at our HTML5 site, they're going to go, well, I can't find anything I'm looking for. That's right, because it's geared for the way that our web developers are looking for information and the feedback that we're receiving from those communities. So one other thing that we released literally just yesterday, we put up roadmaps, something that we've never done before at RIM. We've put full roadmaps of everything that's coming on our betas. What are the different features? When are they landing? We did them as a flight arrival board. Everybody's here, developers. We all know there are some feature functionality you want to get into release X and it moves into release Y. Why? The usual, right? Firefighting and all these different sorts of things. So we put up our roadmaps as flight arrival boards so you can see what's coming when. And this is something that's not just for BlackBerry 10 first launch and the betas that we're doing here. This is a long-standing thing that we're going to be continuing to do through all of our different beta and gold cycles across our different SDKs to give you more visibility of what's coming and when it's coming, or if it's coming, right? It's really hard to build your applications and know how you're going to plan your time when you're not quite sure when you're going to get what you need. So we want to make sure that those roadmaps are available for you. So you can check out, we've got a blog article yesterday, but if you visit any of the different sites, you'll be able to find the roadmaps right from the very first starting pages. So from an architecture standpoint, we showed some of the kind of the layering of the services and things that are there. But at the end of the day, everything kind of boils back down onto that main QNX kernel and the POSIX compliancy that sits across there. And it's been kind of one of the secret sauces for us being able to support so many different languages and different ports and open source ports from the community onto the different platform. So we've got this nice little stack of everything that's there. You'll see that all of our native and our web's platforms all trickle down through the same type of architecture. If you'll learn a lot more today around Cascades and QML and its rendering engine. There's a lot of similarities to what a browser rendering engine is like, only it's a little bit of a different model. But from an architectural standpoint, they're all built on the same kind of bones, right? Cascades comes down onto OpenGL. Web browser comes down onto OpenGL. OpenGL games, well, they come down onto OpenGL. So you've got all of these different things coming down onto some really great software, open standards, and some kick-ass hardware to back it up. Now, we talked a little bit more earlier around some of these different tenants. Oh, that's just not good. I've got strong T's around what makes a great application and BlackBerry 10. And so we've got all of these multitasking, cinematic experience, but what does that mean and how do I incorporate that into my application? Right? There's, you're showing these cool looking screens, they've got these animations, and I've got this stuff that's available, but then do I need to create all this stuff from scratch? Well, no. This is where things like our Cascades application framework come in. They have the design language of BlackBerry 10 built into them. So when you are creating a toolbar, what we call an action bar across the bottom, and I want to have it as 7 tabs and 3 of them overflow so that they come in when they hit the overflow button, this is handled for you by the actual UI framework. You don't have to build all this stuff, it just works, right? So as you're moving from screen to screen and pushing a new screen on there, the animation effects, the fluid nature of all this stuff is all built in. We've made sure that the UI engine itself running in a separate thread from your code so that your code's not blocking your UI. This is one of the things that we found when we were optimizing BlackBerry 7, when you've heard this stuff, we talked about liquid graphics. It's around that optimization of a fluid interface. What we found on BlackBerry 7 was that a lot of that lag install was just poorly placed code in the paint methods around the different screens. There is logic being run in paint. and that slowed down the actual user experience. So we've taken those learnings and we've built a lot of that stuff right into the actual Cascades user interface and the framework that goes across with those. So we talked a little bit about the tooling, but that developer experience that we found, right, with building these types of applications is you need a great set of tools to be able to visualize what you're doing. So this is a QML markup based off of the Qt framework. We've got extra controls and augmentation and things like that we have in there, but instead of having to build and deploy to a device all the time to see, did my pixel line up? Did I do this? Does it look the way that I want it? We have quick previews built into the tools so that you can see how it's going to look as you go across. Code completion, all of the different things that you're expecting from tooling. And we want to hear back from you. What's missing? What are you expecting? What's not there yet? And these are the types of events where we're looking to be able to get that feedback so that we can make sure that it shows up on those roadmaps and you can see that direct relationship from you reporting a feature that you need to it showing up on a roadmap and when it's actually going to be delivered. So this integration set of APIs, this is kind of the foundation, sitting at that service layer above the different types of core level APIs that we have there. Some of the things like invoking and sharing and launching, there's lots of great content that's here today around how these things all work, but it's all about you being able to participate in the system, be part of the system. It looks like you are just part of the rest of the core applications and you were built to be part of that device. These are sorts of things that really, really help the stickiness of your application, the amount of use that you have in there. In a lot of cases, what we see from different reviews and stuff on AppWorld, the popularity of the application itself. So with that, we're going to show a little bit, I'm going to have Gary come up here to show a little bit about the Cascades UI framework to show how some of this stuff comes for you right out of the box and showing some of the different sample applications that we have. So Gary, welcome up.
Can you hear me? Am I on? Thank you. I got to say, before I show anything, this is hooked up, right? It's particularly good for me to be here. I've been a mobile software developer at RIM for like 12 years. And that's been an exhilarating ride. And we've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort being really creative about how we get the most out of these small devices with small black and white screens and hardly any horsepower. And over the years, we've learned a lot about mobile, what it takes to do something software that gets out of your way, that allows you to focus on what you want to be able to do. And it's been neat to be part of something that has been able to have such an impact on people's lives and the way that they work. And it feels to me like we're only getting started. And what I'm exhilarated about to be here and to show you is that the last few years, having had some success, it's been my opportunity and my job to be able to go around and speak to software development groups inside RIM, outside of RIM at DevCon, and to show them and to teach them what they know, what we've learned about how to make user interfaces that are more responsive, how to get more out of the devices, how to make user interfaces that get out of the way so that you can do what you want to be able to do and that are responsive and fluid. And BlackBerry 10, and a lot of times it's a lot of attention to detail, a lot of check these things in your paint method. But BlackBerry 10 is different. BlackBerry 10 is our opportunity to take everything that we've learned about mobile and bake it into the platform so that out of the box, as much as possible, you're going to get professionally designed user interfaces with a lot of attention to detail that will just be there automatically so that you as application software developers truly have that opportunity not to think so much about the details of the layout or the design, but focus on the actual problems that you are using your applications to solve. And I think this is, and to me, Cascades is one of the key things that helps us get there. So this is the Cascades Cookbook app. I'd like to show you a few things. I'll try to show you a little bit in some of the ways in which Cascades does that. Cascades helps us do that. Cascades helps take care of the subtle details so that you can focus on what the user and what your application is attempting to do. So leveraging off a lot of the things that we've talked about in the first part, slider. So this is just a simple example, but here's a control. And when I touch on it and slide on it, see it's got the little moments of charm. It gives me feedback to let me know as immediately that I've touched it and I'm doing something, and it provides that feedback and that animation immediately. The checkboxes will actually do a similar thing. It's very hard to notice. Subtle attention to detail. That actual checkbox will actually fade in the background, and a slider will actually, instead of just changing the selection, the actual button, if you can notice it, it's subtle. The button will actually animate from one position to the next, reinforcing the user action, giving them that feedback. Again, that's nothing that you have to do in the application code. That comes built in out of the box. 9-slice. So like this is just another example. A lot of attention has been put into the Cascades design to try to make it possible for it to handle as much of the layout as possible. 9-slice is one of those things that allows us to have content that can vary with flow. So a 9-slice just allows you to define the corners, and then it will expand to fill the area. But so some subtle things. This is another example of what we call implicit animation. So when you automatically change values, it is Cascades and the rendering engine that is doing that animation for you, and there's nothing in your application code you have to do to be able to take advantage of that. But a few subtle details that are very important to me. One of the things we've learned at RIM is that like people, when they're using their mobile devices, the expectation on a user interface on a mobile device is much greater than it is in a lot of other contexts. Because you're using these devices, you're trying to send an email before the flight attendant tells you to turn off your BlackBerry. You're trying to send an email on the way out the door. You're trying to send an email while you're crossing the street in traffic. And if your user interface is not responsive, if you are not in command of your user interface, if a dialog box comes up to ask you for more information, not only does it make it more clumsy for you to be able to get to do what you want to do, you're in danger, literally, of being hit by that truck. So in a number of cases in Cascades, like we've taken this into account, and we want to make it, like Patrick was talking about the design tenets, one of them being talking about workflow and content is king. To me, this is really can be summarized as user is king. Wherever possible, BlackBerry is successful when the user is always in control and not the software that gets out of your way. So one small subtle example is just that when that animation is going, I don't have to, as a user, wait for that animation to complete before I can do something else. So it's subtle, but if I quickly change that, the animation will actually stop and go the other way and doesn't wait for that action to complete. So another example of that would be the drop-down. So again, leaning on design principles, if I have a selection dialog box, I just select that, and it puts the other, automatically animates, takes everything out of the way, and I can select select the other value, and I'm done. Very simple, very intuitive, very direct manipulation, but out of the subtle details, I don't necessarily have to wait for that animation to complete if I change my mind. The user is in control all the time. This, to me, is what I love about the BlackBerry Flow and the BlackBerry Peak. It's the user is in control. Don't make the user wait before they can do what they want to do, and they can focus on the activity they want to. Another small one that's important to me, one thing that BlackBerry has done very well when we do this right in our UIs is that when you go to send an email, the simplest example, instead of asking you to wait until that email is complete before it sends it, as soon as the user's job is done, you press send. And from that point on, it's the device's responsibility to take that message and to send it. You reply, you put it in your pocket, which is a very important user interface paradigm. In a lot of other cases, there will be dialog boxes that come up, or it might show an activity indicator, or often you'll see, like, I go to do something, and then there's a dialog box that comes up, and that blocks me. I have to wait for that dialog box to complete. So another example of the ways that we're taking what we've learned and built that into the frameworks like Cascades is just this activity indicator. So if I start cooking, and there's actually some work being done, instead of popping up a dialog box, asking the user to wait, having there's just an intuitive and in-place activity indicator letting me know that something is happening there. A lot like when I send an email and it says sent in the inbox. And there's lots of other examples in here of some of the things that Cascades enables. There's a lot of really cool things in here. The other thing that I'd like to take the opportunity to underscore is that, to me, this event here is an unprecedented opportunity for both RIM and for us as application developers and really the industry. To me, what's remarkable about what BlackBerry 10 is, when I started at BlackBerry 12 years ago, the first thing I asked for was, can I get a BlackBerry? I want to be able to start writing things before I actually even start. I want to be able to play with it. These sessions are an opportunity for all of us to be able to play with BlackBerry 10 early. But not only to use the devices and start development early, but I'm also intrigued by the opportunity that we have when we're sharing these design tenets and what we're building in the platform. We're letting you know what we're building into the platform, not only so you'll see what we're doing and can anticipate it, but so that you can build these things into your own designs. So you can take our design tenets and you can see what we're talking about with content being king and putting the user first and these flows. And one of the most intriguing opportunities that I see with the events like this is that somebody is going to see and understand these design tenets. They're going to see and take examples from the design that we're putting in our own applications. And they're going to truly understand where we're going and the capabilities that this platform provides. And they're going to go do something remarkable, something none of us expect. And every new mobile platform that's been released has been an opportunity for somebody, for application developers, to truly differentiate themselves, to capitalize on what it is about that platform that is different or unique, and be able to do something remarkable. To me, in my experience, mobile application development has been amazing. It's been different. It's a challenge. And one of the things that bothers me is that sometimes when you read people talk about the mobile industry, they talk about it in the past tense, like mobile has been established or that there are limited opportunities. But when I look, like one of the things that we did when we first started at RIM, we combined a phone with a BlackBerry. But to me, it's like the 1985 of the smartphone era. The opportunities that we have as an industry and a society to take everything that we currently do, anytime you think, oh, I'll be able to do that when I get to work, or I'll do that as soon as I get to my keyboard, I'll do that as soon as I get to my office. Every one of those things is an opportunity in the mobile landscape, and we're just getting started. The opportunities are truly limitless, and I'm personally thrilled by the opportunity that BlackBerry 10 has, that these devices have, that these events have, and that you have in order to be able to do something really compelling on this platform. And I'm thrilled with the chance to be able to see what we all will be able to do. And I want to encourage you to be able to go do something remarkable. And when you do, let me know. Send me an email or send me a tweet. I'd love to see the stuff that you guys are working on and what we're able to do with this platform. Anyways, thank you.
Great, thanks. Awesome, thanks, Gary. I think this is really something that we're really excited on getting these frameworks out there, and again, just seeing the types of things that you're able to do inside of your applications. We talked a little about this inventive nature, and again, our open source side of things that we have in our developer experience that we've got there is we want to create this open platform so for you to invent on, right? And things that Gary was hitting on there. We have, I don't know how many open source repositories now. I think the number of samples that we have available for BlackBerry 10 is as much of, is not, maybe even a bit more than what's available on Microsoft platforms. We've been pouring more and more stuff into our open source environment, and we've been seeing some great participation and engagement from the community, being able to help out or saying, hey, I've created this cool project. I mentioned a couple of them earlier. But this platform has allowed lots of great ports of things coming across onto the platform. It's been great for different gaming platforms out there, and we've even open sourced our own gaming platform that's really it's something that we use to push the limits internally. And we figured, well, why keep all the code internal? Why not share it with everybody else, that they might be able to take some pieces away from there that will work on other devices as well as BlackBerry. So we always build things as how can we collaborate together to help that inventive nature. And the social gaming aspect of things is another really good example of places of where to possibly invent and places to take things further. All right, we've got our score loop APIs and these things for being able to do scoreboards, BBM integration, these ideas of being able to extend and look beyond the device and being able to do some really cool things to socially engage with your customers, being able to really take your applications and your games into that next level of interaction. Now, we've talked a lot about native and the capabilities there. One of the things that we're also very, very proud of and something that we want to make sure that everybody is aware of is our web platform. We talk to developers, and there seems to be this 50-50 split between the native and web, and the conversation of can web actually do it. Patrick mentioned earlier, HTML5 gets thrown around everywhere, and what does that actually mean? Which is great, but then what if I want to create an application that integrates with NFC? Right, and where do I go from those angles? Well, from our open standard support on our browser is that we have, I believe, last we checked, the top HTML5 compliant browser, bar none, compared to Google Chrome, compared to any desktop or mobile browser that's out there. We are pushing the limits on the web on what's available as tools and capabilities for you to be able to invent on top of. Our speed and performance are fantastic. Canvas, all these different things are all hardware accelerated, coming back down onto OpenGL or OpenVG or whatever we need to do to be able to make that faster. We're also, I believe, still the only mobile platform that has full WebGL support. So we have an application up in App World called Tunnel Tilt. It's a game that you can move around and the ball's rolling around through there, all entirely written with web technologies, all WebGL and JavaScript that's in there, getting full OpenGL coding backed by a JavaScript language that's there. So lots of great things and opportunities and real bone structure to be able to build some cool applications on. Also from the web side of things, we're very, very active in amongst the different communities. We work really closely with the guys from PhoneGap or the Cordova project on cross-platform mobile web application development. We've contributed some of the different code over there as well. We now have a contributor that's contributor status for jQuery Mobile. We work with Sencha. We work with the Append2 guys. We want to make sure that both our outward contributions into those different frameworks is also there, along with the stuff that we're doing specifically for BlackBerry. So we've done some of our own little open source projects as well, such as BBUI that we'll look at, or Alice.js, which is an animation engine that you can do cool hardware accelerated animations in the web with a few lines of code. So we want to make sure that we're breeding a lot of innovation in the web space. And we have now, BBUI, we'll talk a little bit about how it creates that BlackBerry 10 experience in the web, but we have, very shortly, we'll have jQuery mobile themes for BlackBerry 10 that will bring that same experience over. We'll plug in for the main basics of jQuery mobile, but then even some jQuery mobile custom controls to take on some of the unique controls and experiences that you see in BlackBerry. Same thing goes with Sencha support. We're working with Sencha to be able to create great BlackBerry 10 experiences with their JavaScript toolkits as well. So WebWorks is really one of these platforms that started back on BlackBerry 5 with the BlackBerry 5 browser when it was released, was basically on par with Firefox at the time. Problem is web technology expands and goes much faster than the amount of time that the devices are in circulation. but we continue to add more and more from the browser perspective, and WebWorks kind of bridges that gap of functionality from an application. So it's not a write once, run anywhere technology. It's around being able to provide you the same framework to build an application across multiple different devices, all the way from BlackBerry 5, moving all the way into BlackBerry 10 and into the future as we go here. BBUI is a little JavaScript toolkit that it's basically an incubation project that we continue to work on, where we push the limits of the browsers. We work with the idiosyncrasies in amongst the different browsers to be able to try to create a little UI toolkit that will work from early BlackBerry phones all the way up into BlackBerry 10, and bringing that same BlackBerry user experience to that application based on the OS that it's running on. So it kind of changes itself based off of what OS and which BlackBerry it recognizes itself running on. So we've been using this to really push the limits of the browser, run the animations, find out things that are not performant, feed that back into the development teams, but then taking those findings and then making them outward contributions to things like jQuery Mobile and sharing those findings with Sencha as well. So with that, we'll do a quick demonstration to show you essentially a lot of the same things that you saw with Gary from a Cascades perspective, and that you're able to get the same types of user experiences by using a web technology. Same thing goes for Air applications, is that you have that same set of UI controls. So here we have our list. You know, Gary had showed some different things in here for the slider. So here we've got our slider, the same animations, the same kind of movements and everything that are in here. We've got the same back buttons and action bars that we've got with each of the different tabs. So if I look in my action bar sample, I've got my tab overflows, so I can choose my different tabs. I got action overflows with things that are coming in here, all in a markup that's very similar to jQuery Mobile. So we found a lot of really interesting things here. We're sharing the CSS. We're sharing a lot of the different sizing and things that we're doing across for things into jQuery Mobile. Right down to the same sorts of things where we have the radio button movement coming across as we move from one to the other. And when Gary talks about the level of detail that goes into these controls, I'm one of the primary authors on the BBUI toolkit, and I've been going through and working with the UX department on each of these different controls, and it is crazy the level of bloody detail that they have into every single thing that they've done in the UX around this is for one-handed usage, and this is why these are centered, and this is anchored at the bottom versus this coming in from this way. And we find people will use two hands for doing this type of interaction, so the control is designed this way. No, that animation needs to blip and come back down to get this different type of effect. So it's been something that's been great for myself to be able to dig into all of those different user experience documents, to be able to understand the amount of thought that's going in to create those moments of charm, and to think about how do you remove yourself so that your user doesn't see your user interface, they see the app that they're interacting with, and really removing the barriers and letting that user get to what they want to do. So we've got all of the same sorts of layouts that we've got in here, whether it be grid layouts, square layouts. We've got back buttons, all the different types of things that you have, the same types of controls. These same controls also are there in the upcoming jQuery Mobile themes, as well as the Sencha toolkits as well. So that's a little bit of a BBUI. Again, it's an open source project. It's available online. You're more than welcome to come up there and grab it and start working with some of the different samples. It's been great getting a ton of community help as well, whether it be knocking off bugs or working on new features. It's been fantastic to see all of our developers out there helping out with this toolkit. So with that, I think we're through the architecture side of things, and I'll turn it back over to Brian to take it from there. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tim. Okay, so we've heard a little bit so far about the UX of BlackBerry 10, the architecture of BlackBerry 10, and seen some cool demos showing some of the things that can be created with BlackBerry 10. Let's keep going along that exact same vein. I'd like to invite to the stage Ritesh Patel. Ritesh is actually one of the founders of a company called Tab. They're currently showing off some very cool stuff using NFC. So without further ado, Ritesh, please give us a little show and tell here.
Sorry guys, just give me a second to get set up. Hi everyone. No. Testing. There we go. You hear me? Nope, you're not. How's that? Better? Worse? All right. Got that all set up. So, hi. My name is Ritesh, and as Brian just introduced, I'm the founder of Tab, and today I'm here to talk to you about our vision for mobile payments and how we're planning to use BlackBerry 10. So, just by a quick show of hands, how many of you hate waiting in line? Oh, come on, there's got to be more of you. So I figured that there's probably a lot of you that hate waiting in line. Well, I do too. And so Tab, we're planning to give you and the businesses that you love the tools that you need to beat the line and get the VIP treatment that you deserve. Well, first off, what is Tab? Well, Tab aims to provide a set of tools that businesses can use to build a complete solution to accept orders and payments from their customers using their mobile devices. We use several technologies to do this, one of which being the Mint-chip digital currency platform that's been developed and backed by the Royal Canadian Mint. This platform allows users to send and receive real money digitally. To actually accept the orders securely, we're using near-field communication, or NFC, and this is a technology that allows you to just tap your phone, place the order, and transfer the Mint-chip value message at the same time, so we can charge your account the appropriate amount. We're also integrating with BlackBerry Messenger, or BBM, and other social networks to allow you to share your orders between your friends and place group orders together if necessary. And finally, all of this is done in the cloud so that the merchant has the analytics that they need to analyze the transactions that are performed using their apps, and also the usage information associated with it. So what does all of this really mean for you, the user? Well, it means that you no longer have to wait in line at your favorite businesses just to order a product. You simply open up their app on your phone, place the order, and pay for it, all from one device. It means that you no longer have to stand in line, and it means that you don't have to carry a wallet anymore. And finally, it means that you can share your order with your friends. Now, I've talked a lot about these benefits that Tab can give you, but it's a lot easier for me to show you how this would actually be used in a real-life scenario. So I'm going to show you a quick video that we created as part of our entry for the Mid-Chip Challenge. So let me just flip to it. Oh, wait, sorry, 1 second, guys. So just wanted to talk a little bit more about what you saw in the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So you saw a lot of things where the customers were using the BlackBerry Dev Alpha and some of the front-end apps that we've developed for it. So we actually started with this idea approximately 5 months ago, back in April. And since then, we've done a mountain of work. But you can see there's still a ton more to do. Thankfully, because of BlackBerry 10 and the Dev Alpha, it's made things super easy for us to develop in terms of getting this idea off the ground. Because of RIM's commitment to the QNX OS and open source software, it meant that we could use tools like Python, C++, Cascades, and Qt to quickly prototype these apps and get them up and running. Because of the killer hardware that exists on the Dev Alpha, we were able to make killer apps that used NFC and 4G connectivity. And lastly, the development tools meant that we had a choice of environment to work in. At Tab, we're actually primarily a Linux/Ubuntu house, and we like to code in a plain terminal with Vim open, editing source code files, and deploying over Wi-Fi. It's just a developer's dream to be able to develop for BlackBerry 10. So with that, I can show you a quick demo of one of these apps in action, actually. So after a long day of coding, I like to frequent a local lounge called Tab Lounge. Hopefully it'll come up in a second. Yep. I have to change this. It's a little cut off. Let me just change. That's fine. It's okay. Sorry. So I like to frequent this lounge frequently, and you know what? I hate waiting in line. I hate having to shout my order to the bartender. I'd rather just do it all from my phone and tap the kiosk. So my favorite order is gin and tonic. I add it, it shows me the price, and I go ahead and I hit place the order. And at the top you can see that it's showing me my balance and the list of actual drinks that I've ordered as well. And because Tab Lounge has an NFC-enabled kiosk, I simply tap my phone to the kiosk and it places the order. I sit back, relax, and wait while my drink is made. But you might be asking, well, how does the bartender know what order I've placed? Well, the great thing is that Tab actually provides a, a web-based front end for the bartender to actually see the transactions coming in real time. And they can actually mark these orders as being completed, and that's it. It's just that easy to use Tab and BlackBerry 10 to place orders and skip the line and just get on with your life. We're BlackBerry people. We like to get things done. So with that, I hope that I've been able to show you how RIM and BlackBerry 10 have made it super easy for us to develop our concept for Tab. Going forward, the one thing I would like to ask is that you show your support for our efforts that we've and for the things that we've shown here. We're actually enrolled in the Royal Canadian Mint Chip Challenge, and we're actually leading the popular vote category at this moment, but by a very narrow margin. What I would like is to actually win this competition, but the reason is not just to help us out, but to help everyone out. As BlackBerry developers, it would help us tremendously to show that as what we can do with the software and the tools that we're given. And by winning this, we can showcase that on a world stage. So I'm hoping that I can get your vote by visiting that link that you see on the screen and help us out and help yourselves out at the same time. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed the demo and the video.
Thank you very much, Ritesh. Very quickly, we'll actually bring up Wes Warfield. Patrick Mullins talked earlier a little bit about the BlackBerry developer groups that are going on in Waterloo. So Wes actually heads up that developer group, so I'll give him an opportunity here quickly to let you know a little bit about the group and how you guys can get involved.
Ooh, okay, this is on. No fancy decks, no fancy NFC stuff, just grassroots. I get to spend my days working with the team Motec, which is a local app developer. And as a volunteer, I coordinate the local BlackBerry app developers group. What is that? It's BlackBerry developers meeting approximately once a month to talk about all things BlackBerry. So this is a great opportunity, since all of you are here, to ask you to include yourself in our group. Our next meeting is September 20th. We meet at the Communitech Hub. The next meeting will just be a show and tell and app demo, getting feedback from peers. We have 71 members of the group. Usually about 20 or 30 people come out to the monthly meetings. If you're just starting out, you're welcome. If you're a seasoned BlackBerry developer, you're welcome as well. How do you find out about us? Well, there's a bunch of people in the audience that are group members, so you could talk to me, but maybe the group members could also stand up. I think we've got about half a dozen of them here today. So you just look around. Thanks, guys. Thanks for standing up. So any of these guys you can talk to as well. The way you join the group is really simple. Just like us on Facebook. So search KW BlackBerry Developers Group on Facebook. Like it. You remember the group. You'll get the updates. And you can also follow us on Twitter at KWBBDev. Thanks. Hope you can join us.